The blast doors exploded inward, sending sparks cascading across the Senate landing platform like falling stars against Coruscant's twilight sky. Clone troopers dove for cover as separatist infiltrators poured through the breach, their modified E5 blasters cutting crimson lines through the smoke. But these weren't battle droids. These were sentient beings wearing Republic maintenance uniforms, their faces hidden behind scramblers. Anakin Skywalker's lightsaber hummed to life, deflecting blaster fire with deadly precision. The Force whispered warnings that went deeper than immediate danger. 3 days later, the Jedi Council chamber felt colder than usual. Master Yoda's gimmer stick tapped against the floor as he paced, his ears drooping with the weight of troubling visions. The attack had confirmed what the Ancient Master had already suspected. The enemy wasn't just across the stars, but here in the Republic's heart. Mace Windu leaned forward, reviewing intelligence reports of operatives embedded throughout the bureaucracy. Form a new division, we must. Jedi intelligence, operating in shadows, seeking truth and deception. Skywalker? He's impulsive, emotional. Intelligence work requires subtlety. To find the shadows, one who understands them, we need. The Council's decision was made, though Obi-Wan's concerns about removing Anakin from the battlefield lingered in the air. This new path would either bring Anakin closer to the Order or push him further into isolation. The seeds of secrecy were planted, and with them, the beginning of the end. The new Jedi Intelligence Headquarters occupied a forgotten level of the temple, far below the archives. Ancient stone walls held modern holoprojectors, and the air hummed with encrypted comm arrays. Anakin stood before his assembled team, an unlikely collection of warriors and shadows. Ahsoka Tano crossed her arms skeptically, though her eyes betrayed curiosity. Captain Rex studied data streams with military precision, while Master Plo Koon's respirator hissed softly in the background. From the shadows emerged two figures, splicers from Coruscant's underworld, their faces obscured by holographic masks. Trace and Rafa's network knew every data stream in the lower levels, making them invaluable despite their criminal background. The intercepted transmissions they'd already uncovered showed coordination between 12 Senate offices and unknown recipients using Sith encryption protocols. Still think this is a bad idea, Sky Guy. Since when do Jedi spy on people? Since people started embedding Sith operatives in the Senate, Snips. This is different from stealing speeders, Jedi. You're talking about slicing Senate security. The team dispersed to their stations, each member carrying doubts about this unprecedented mission. Rex noticed his general's increasing intensity, the way Anakin's mechanical hand clenched when studying the encrypted data. The investigation revealed something shocking. One of the encrypted signals originated within the Jedi Temple itself. The enemy wasn't just in the Senate, it had somehow reached into the sacred halls of the Order. Ahsoka's warning about not knowing where to start suddenly carried prophetic weight. Before we move on, I'd like to ask you a small favor. If you're enjoying this content so far, please take a second to like this video and subscribe to the channel. Over 98% of you watch these videos without subscribing. Imagine what we could accomplish if everyone subscribed. We thank you all for your continued support. 3 weeks into the investigation, the trail led somewhere unthinkable, the Jedi Archives. Jocasta Nu stood rigid with indignation as Anakin's team swept through her domain with scanning equipment. The elderly librarian's protests echoed off towering shelves of holocrons, each one containing millennia of Jedi knowledge. But the evidence was undeniable. Someone had been accessing restricted holocrons remotely using a masked signature, Cipher 9. The designation sent chills through those old enough to remember. Cipher 9 belonged to the Shadows, Jedi who operated in absolute secrecy, answering only to the Council, supposedly disbanded after the Naboo crisis decades ago. Rex's tactical display showed the signature's encryption matched transmissions from Sereno, Count Dooku's stronghold. The archives are secure. No one could access them remotely without leaving a trace? Then explain Cipher 9. The Shadows were disbanded decades ago, after the Naboo crisis. Suddenly, a holocron flickered to life, projecting an encrypted message. When decoded, Count Dooku's unmistakable voice emerged, distorted by time and encryption. He spoke of corruption the Council refused to acknowledge, claiming the Republic was already lost. The recording cut off abruptly, leaving the team in stunned silence. Anakin pocketed the data, his mind already working through the implications. Every trap contained truth. That's what made them effective. Obi-Wan's earlier warnings about keeping perspective seemed increasingly distant as Anakin began questioning whether someone on the Council was hiding the truth. The summons to the Chancellor's office came that evening, delivered by red-robed guards with expressions carved from stone. Palpatine stood with his back to massive windows, Coruscant's endless lights stretching beyond him like a galaxy of secrets. His grandfatherly smile appeared as he turned, congratulating Anakin on his promotion to head of Jedi intelligence, but beneath the warmth lay calculated manipulation. The Chancellor moved closer, his voice dropping to a confident whisper. He spoke of the Council's fear of Anakin's power. suggesting this assignment was their way of keeping him contained, away from the battlefield where he truly excelled. The words stung because they carried uncomfortable possibilities Anakin had already considered. The Council fears your power, Anakin. This intelligence division, it's their way of keeping you contained. The Council felt it necessary, Chancellor. Sometimes we must bend the rules to preserve what we hold dear. From his desk, Palpatine produced a secure data card containing Senate security protocols, classified but necessary for the investigation, he claimed. Using them would be illegal, violating Republic laws Anakin had sworn to protect, but if it meant uncovering the truth faster than bureaucratic channels would allow. The Chancellor's request to keep this between them planted another seed of secrecy. That night, Padme found Anakin on their apartment balcony, the data card turning over in his mechanical hand, weighing the cost of breaking rules to preserve the Republic. The hidden communications hub beneath the Senate complex reeked of ozone and betrayal. Massive servers hummed with data that shouldn't exist, their connections spreading like cancer through the Republic's infrastructure. Trace's fingers flew over his portable terminal, uncovering links to the banking clan and Kaminoan genetic databases. Someone was accessing clone trooper behavioral modification protocols, reprogramming the Republic's own soldiers. Before Rex could voice his rage, lights blazed to life. Republic security officers flooded in, soldiers who should have been allies, their blasters already raised. The lead officer announced Anakin's arrest for espionage, then fired without waiting for a response. "We have authorization!" "Go! I'll get her out!" "Get to the safe house. Protect the data." The bolt caught Ahsoka's shoulder, spinning her to the ground. Anakin's lightsaber carved through the opposition with precise efficiency, each strike measured to disarm rather than kill. These weren't droids, but Republic citizens, possibly innocent men following orders. The restraint cost him precious seconds. Rex dragged the wounded Padawan to cover while Anakin held the line, downloading crucial files even as they retreated. Back at their safe house, medical droids worked on Ahsoka while Anakin reviewed the data with growing horror. Senator Tikas appeared repeatedly alongside references to Sith liaison in the Chancellor's inner circle. When Palpatine's image appeared on his private comm moments later, expressing concern before Anakin had reported the incident, the implications were staggering. Dawn brought confrontation. Yoda and Windu sat in judgment, their expressions grave as they reviewed Anakin's methods. Unauthorized raids, illegal slicer activity, and Senate surveillance using the Chancellor's codes. The very corruption Anakin sought to expose, he was becoming. His methods had compromised the Order's position, giving enemies ammunition against the Jedi. Anakin's fist slammed the table in frustration. While the Council debated philosophy, the Republic was being hollowed out from within. The evidence was overwhelming. Senate officials meeting with Sith operatives, clone protocols altered, yet they wanted to lecture about protocol. "You've compromised the Order's position, given our enemies ammunition. Our enemies are already inside. You want to lecture me about protocol? The very corruption you seek, becoming you are." In his fury, Anakin made a fatal decision. He transmitted the intelligence directly to the Senate's Anti-Corruption Committee, potentially the very body that was compromised. Within hours, the data was public, but spun into a narrative of Jedi overreach and illegal surveillance. Palpatine's response was masterfully measured, calling for investigation into all parties while subtly granting himself oversight of Republic intelligence operations. With careful words, he turned Anakin's crusade for truth into justification for expanding executive power. The Council watched their carefully maintained position crumble, knowing Anakin had played directly into waiting hands. Trust between Anakin and the Order fractured beyond repair. The encrypted transmission from Count Dooku came at night, his aristocratic form flickering in Anakin's private study. The revelation was stunning. Cypher 9 had been Dooku's designation when he served as a Jedi Shadow, investigating the same corruption decades ago. The difference was that Dooku had learned the truth about the depth of the conspiracy and chosen a different path. The former Jedi's calm demeanor belied the magnitude of his offer. The Sith Lord Anakin sought, Darth Sidious, sat closer to power than anyone imagined. Dooku promised an alliance to expose him, claiming they could save what remained of the Republic through cooperation. Ahsoka, her arm still in a medical sling from the Senate raid, limped in to warn against the obvious manipulation. "The Sith Lord you seek sits closer to power than you imagine." "Master, don't listen to him. This is exactly what he wants, to divide us." Ask yourself, Skywalker, who benefits from this war? Who gains power with every emergency measure? The transmission ended, leaving questions that burned like acid. Every emergency power granted, every expansion of executive authority, all led back to the same impossible conclusion. Anakin's mind refused to accept what the evidence suggested, but the seeds of doubt were planted deep. The investigation had revealed that Sith infiltration began before the Clone Wars, during the time of the Naboo crisis. The web was older and more intricate than anyone had imagined. Dooku's offer hung in the air: trust the Sith who spoke truth, or the Jedi who seemed to hide it. The choice would define everything that followed. Padme's political allies began disappearing like shadows at dawn. Senators who'd questioned the Chancellor's expanding powers found themselves under investigation, their staffs arrested for aiding espionage. When Padme herself was named in a sealed indictment, Anakin's control finally shattered. He stormed into Palpatine's office, raw fury radiating from every movement. The Chancellor's expression was perfectly crafted, shock, outrage, paternal concern blending seamlessly. He blamed Dooku's manipulation, claiming the Count was turning Anakin against those who cared for him most. From a secured cabinet, he withdrew a thick dossier that would shatter what remained of Anakin's trust. I didn't want to show you this, but perhaps you need to see what the Jedi Council has been hiding. They've been watching me? Padme? Our private conversations? The Council doesn't trust you, Anakin. They never have. This intelligence division was about controlling you. The documents detailed extensive Jedi surveillance, not on the Sith, but on the Chancellor's office, Senate members, and Anakin himself. Photos, transcripts, private conversations with Padme, all meticulously cataloged. The documents were masterful forgeries, but Anakin's emotional state made him vulnerable to their deception. His trust in the Order, already fractured, shattered completely. The Chancellor had given him exactly what he needed to see at exactly the right moment. In trying to protect the Republic, Anakin had become the instrument of its destruction. Palpatine watched the young Jedi leave, knowing the final piece was in place. Ahsoka and Rex had pieced together the real truth in the archives. Palpatine himself was Darth Sidious. They were preparing to deliver their findings to the Council when Anakin arrived, his lightsaber already ignited. The blue blade cast harsh shadows among the ancient texts, transforming the repository of knowledge into a battlefield of ideology. His hollow voice demanded they stand aside. Ahsoka held up the evidence, tears streaming down her face as she pleaded with her former master. The Chancellor was the Sith Lord, playing everyone, the Senate, the Separatists, and especially Anakin. But he was too far gone, convinced that either Dooku or the Council was lying, unable to see the truth through his emotional turmoil. The Chancellor is the Sith Lord. He's been playing everyone, especially you. Maybe this is exactly who I am, someone who sees the truth that the Order is just as corrupt. I know you're still in there, the Anakin who taught me to question everything. Question this, Master. They fought among holocrons containing millennia of wisdom, master against apprentice, their sabers painting desperate light in the darkness. But even lost in rage, Anakin couldn't strike the killing blow. When Ahsoka deliberately left herself vulnerable to reach him, her blade inches from his chest while his hovered at hers, something broke through. For a moment, clarity flickered in his eyes. He deactivated his lightsaber, stepping back into shadow, telling them to take their evidence to the Council, though it wouldn't matter. The game was already over. The sadness in his voice suggested he knew exactly what he'd become, and what he'd allowed to happen. By the time the Jedi Council exposed fragments of the Sith network, Palpatine had already won. He spun the revelations as proof of a Jedi coup attempt, their illegal surveillance justifying emergency powers that would never be relinquished. Public trust in the Order collapsed overnight. The Senate voted overwhelmingly to grant the Chancellor direct control over all intelligence operations, both military and civilian. The Republic still stood, would stand for a while longer, but its foundation had rotted from within. In the council chambers, as evening painted Coruscant in shades of amber and shadow, Anakin delivered his final report. His face was an unreadable mask as he laid out everything: the truth, the lies, and the catastrophic space between them where democracy had died. The intelligence division was dissolved, all assets transferred to the Chancellor's office as ordered by the Senate. Won, you think he has? He won the moment he started playing his game. The shadow you hunted, Skywalker, within you now it grows. Anakin paused at the doorway but didn't turn back, acknowledging that perhaps the shadow had always been there. He walked into Coruscant's vast cityscape, where a trillion lights blazed against darkness, each one a truth or lie with no way to distinguish between them. In his penthouse, Palpatine watched the sunset paint the city crimson, everything proceeding as foreseen. The Clone Wars would continue, but the real war was already over, fought in encrypted transmissions and classified files, where even the wisest Jedi had lost their way. If you enjoyed this journey into the shadows of what might have been, remember to hit that subscribe button and join us for more explorations of the infinite possibilities within that galaxy far, far away. May the Force be with you, always.